This is book number 89. Dear Mrs. LaRue, Letters from Obedience School, written and illustrated by Mark Teague. A dog writing letters. There are two kinds of stories, fiction and nonfiction. The Ducks book that I read a couple days ago is kind of a mixture between fiction and nonfiction. There were some parts of it that were true and other parts that were kind of pretend. Yesterday's story, The Blessing Cup, is more a biography, a true story about Patricia Polacco's great-grandmother, Anna. This is complete fiction. This is just a silly book because dogs don't write letters. So we know it's fiction. It's a pretend story. Nonfiction means it's true. This is fiction. Dear Mrs. LaRue, Letters from Obedience School. So that's Mrs. LaRue, and this is her dog, and he's writing a letter. He's also reading a book, 50 Great Escapes. Dear Mrs. LaRue. The Snort City Register. So this looks like a newspaper article. September 30th. Local dog enters obedience school. Ike LaRue. Citing a long list of behavioral problems, Snort City resident Gertrude R. LaRue yesterday enrolled her dog Ike in the Igor Brotweiler Canine Academy, established in 1953. The academy has a history of dealing with such issues. I'm at my wit's end, said Mrs. LaRue. I love Ike, but I'm afraid he's quite spoiled. He steals food right off the kitchen counter, chases the neighbor's kids, howls whenever I'm away, and last week while I was crossing the street, he pulled me down and tore my best camel's hair coat. I just don't know what else to do. School officials were unavailable for comment. So there's a picture of him pulling her and making her fall down. So, like any good newspaper article, it answers the question, who? Ike LaRue. What? That he's a problem child or a problem dog. Where? In his city. When? The other day. And how? Lists all of his problems and that now he is going to the local obedience school. Who, what, where, when, how, why. Questions all newspapers answer. All right. There's Ike mailing his letter. There's the obedience school. It says sauna and pool right there on the sign. And the other sign here says welcome dogs. This is how Ike is seeing himself. Warning, prisoners on board. So that's what he's thinking. That's why it's kind of in black and white. But the color is what's really going on. And here is his letter. Dear Mrs. LaRue, how could you do this to me? This is a prison, not a school. You should see the other dogs. They are bad dogs, Mrs. LaRue. I don't fit in. Even the journey here was a horror. I'm very unhappy and may need something to chew on when I get home. Please come right away. Sincerely, Ike. Here's Ike writing. Look, he's got his bones. And this is his version of what happened with the chicken pie. Dear Mrs. LaRue, were you really so upset about the chicken pie? You know you might have discussed it with me. You could have said, Ike, don't eat the chicken pie. I'm saving it for dinner. Would that have been so difficult? It would have prevented a lot of hard feelings. Needless to say, I'm being horribly mistreated. You say I should be patient, except that I'll be here through the term. Are you where the term lasts 2 months? Do you know how long that is in dog years? Sincerely, Ike. So remember, if it's a black and white picture, it's kind of how he's remembering things. There are the cats. Remember, they listed that he chased the neighbor's cats. So there's Ike. He's thinking about his next letter, and he's going to tell her about the cats. Dear Mrs. LaRue, I'd like to clear up some misconceptions about the Hibbins cats. First, they are hardly the little angels Mrs. Hibbins makes them out to be. Second, how should I know what they were doing out on the fire escape in the middle of January? They were being a bit melodramatic, don't you think? The way they cried and refused to come down. It's hard to believe they really were sick for 3 whole days. But you know cats. Your dog, Ike. Look at the nice lady giving everybody treats. Uh-oh. Gruesome prison tales. So where is Ike getting his ideas? Solitary confinement, says the sign. Is that really what's going on? No. He's writing Mrs. LaRue letters that are not quite true. Dear Mrs. LaRue, you should see what goes on around here. The way my warden, Miss Klondike, barks orders is shocking. Day after day, I'm forced to perform the most meaningless tasks. Today it was sit and roll over. All day long. I flatly refuse to roll over. It's ridiculous. I won't do it. Of course, I was severely punished. And another thing, who will help you cross the street while I'm away? You know you have a bad habit of not looking both ways. Think of all the times I've saved you. Well, that was the one time anyway. I must say you weren't very grateful, complaining all about the tiny rip in your ratty old coat. But the point is, you need me. Yours, Ike. Is the warden really a bad lady? No, she's not a warden. She's a teacher. Nasty dungeons of the world. Dear Mrs. LaRue, the guards are all caught up in this good dog, bad dog thing. I hear it constantly. Good dog, Ike. Don't be a bad dog, Ike. Is it really so good to sit still like a lummox all day? Nevertheless, I refuse to be broken. Miss Klondike has taken my typewriter. She claims it disturbs the other dogs. Does anybody care that the other dogs disturb me? Yours, Ike. Look at the fancy tables they're all sitting at. 50 great escapes. No howling, biting, scratching, growling, slobbering, barking, and no seconds. Not the case, Ike. Dear Mrs. LaRue, were the neighbors really complaining about my howling? It's hard to imagine. First, I didn't howl that much. You were away those nights, so you wouldn't know. But trust me, it was quite moderate. Second, let's recall that there was the same neighbors who were constantly waking me up in the middle of the afternoon with their loud vacuuming. I say we all have to learn to get along. My life here continues to be a nightmare. You wouldn't believe what goes on in the cafeteria. Sincerely, Ike. P.S. I don't want to alarm you, but the thought of escape has crossed my mind. Dear Mrs. LaRue, I hate to tell you this, but I'm terribly ill. It started in my paw, causing me to limp all day. Later I felt queasy so that I could barely eat dinner, except for the yummy gravy. Then I began to moan and howl. Finally, I had to be taken to the vet. Dr. Wilfrey claims that he can't find anything wrong with me, but I'm certain I have an awful disease. I must come home at once. Honestly yours, Ike. He's over-exaggerating again. Patient LaRue. Diagnosis, hypochondriac. That's where you pretend to be sick. Doctors have his number. Dear Mrs. LaRue, thank you for your love and get well card. Still, I'm a little surprised that you didn't come get me. I know what Dr. Wilfrey says, but it is really wise to take risk with one's health. I could have a relapse, you know. With fall here, I think about all the fine times we are used to have in the park. Remember how sometimes you would bring along a tennis ball? You would throw it and I would retrieve it every time, except for the once when it landed in something nasty and brought you back a stick and said, "Oh, I miss it. Yours truly, Ike." P.S. Imagine how awful it is for me to be stuck inside my tiny cell. P.S.S. I still feel pretty sick. Ike. So, there's the real picture, and here's what he's trying to tell her about. See the rope there? He's trying to escape. Dear Mrs. LaRue, by the time you read this, I will be gone. I've decided to attempt a daring escape. I'm sorry it's come to this, since I'm really a very good dog, but frankly, you left me no choice. How sad it is not to be appreciated. From now on, I'll wander from town to town without a home or even any dog food, most likely. Such is the life of a desperate outlaw. I'll try to write you from time to time as I carry on with my life of hardship and danger. Your lonely fugitive, Ike. Wanted, escape Kadon, reward. Return to Igor Bratwat Academy. He's escaping in a taxi. The Snort City Register Gazette, October the 10th. So we're getting another newspaper story. So it should tell us who, what, where, when, how, and why everything's going on. LaRue escaped doggy detention. Former Snort City resident Ike LaRue escaped last night from the dormitory at the Igor Brightwaller Canine Academy. The dog is described as toothy by local police. His current whereabouts are unknown. To be honest, I thought he was bluffing when he told me he was planning to escape, said a visibly upset Gertrude LaRue, the dog's owner. Ike tends to be a bit melodramatic, you know. Now I can only pray he'll come back. Asked if she would return Ike to the Brotweiler Academy, Mrs. LaRue said that she would have to wait and see. He's a good dog, basically, but he can be difficult. So look, he's at a restaurant. He's trying to get her to think that he's hopping on a train and out in the middle of nowhere. Dear Mrs. LaRue, October 11th, somewhere in America. I continue to suffer horribly as I roam these barren wastelands. Doesn't look like he's suffering too much, does he? Who knows where my wanderings will take me now? Hopefully to some place with yummy food. Remember the special treats you used to make for me? I miss them. I miss our nice, cozy apartment. But mostly I miss you, your sad dog Ike. P.S. I even miss the Hibbins cats. In a way. Oh, looks like he's in an airplane now. Snort City or bust. He's hitchhiking in his dream. Dear Mrs LaRue, October 12th, still somewhere. This world is a hard and cruel place for a stray dog. You would scarcely believe the misery I've endured, so I've decided to return home. You may try to lock me up again, but that is a risk I must take, and frankly, even more than myself, I worry about you. You may not know it, Mrs. LaRue, but you need a dog. Your misunderstood friend, Ike. Can you see this part here? Shows Ike doing flips and saving Mrs. LaRue. Another newspaper article, the Snort City Register Gazette, October the 12th. Hero dog saves owner. Ike LaRue, until recently a student of the Igor Brotweiler Canine Academy, returned to Snort City yesterday in dramatic fashion. In fact, he arrived just in time to rescue his owner, Gertrude LaRue, of 2nd Avenue, from an oncoming truck. Mrs. LaRue had made the trip downtown to purchase a new camel's hair coat. Apparently, she neglected to look both ways before stepping out into traffic. The daring rescue was witnessed by several onlookers, including patrolman Newton Schmitzer. He smiled right across the 2 lanes of traffic to get at her, said Schmitzer. It was really something. I haven't seen rolling like that since I left the police academy. I like Ike. Mrs. LaRue was unhurt in the incident, though her coat was badly torn. I don't care about that, she said. I'm just happy to have my Ike back home where he belongs. LaRue said she plans to throw a big party for the dog. All the neighbors will be there, and I'm going to serve Ike's favorite dishes. Uh-oh. He's already eating his pie. It says, welcome home. I'll bet he can't wait to taste the chicken pie. Dear Mrs. LaRue, I think Grandpa writes better letters than Ike does to you guys. And he also makes stickers, doesn't he?